on the coordinating committee for the Wellstone Club. But what I want to do mostly is talk about the minimum wage. We've got folks here who've been working on the minimum wage campaign, and I want to start just reading something that I wrote, and then we're going to introduce a few folks who've been working on this campaign in order. Franklin Roosevelt once wrote the following words. He said, "In my inaugural address, I laid down the simple proposition that nobody is going to be allowed to starve in this country. It seems to me to be equally plain that no business which depends for its existence on paying less than living wages to its workers has any right to continue in this country." And we have a special meeting of the City Council this coming Thursday, International Workers' Day, May 1st. And I quote those words in this context because it seems to me that with these words, President Roosevelt spelled out a truism of his time, one that was learned through bitterness, the bitterness of a country thrown into economic and real social collapse during the Great Depression, and the greedy excesses that preceded that led to the collapse. And what Roosevelt and other political leaders of his time understood was that an economic system that by design keeps large numbers of its workers on the bare edges of survival is a system that's not only morally bankrupt, but it's also a system that's doomed to failure. President Roosevelt is not just expressing a moral sentiment about the basic elements of a decent society, he's also reiterating a really pragmatic economic truth. That in order to create a thriving economy, wealth and income has to be distributed more evenly. He understood that when the poorest citizens in the society are wealthier, then virtually everybody else in the society is wealthier too. This is something that Paul Wellstone understood. He used to say, we all do better when we all do better, and in fact, it's the only way we can all do better is when we all do better. That basic piece of truth is something that we seem to have forgotten as a society. And it embarrasses me to say that several years ago, when I was first approached by one of my former students with the idea that we could raise the minimum wage in Santa Clara County, where I work, I said, oh, that'll never happen. We're just not going to do that. This society is so retrograde. We're not there. And she said, well, watch me. And she came back and organized in my classrooms and organized in campuses. And eventually we won a campaign in the city of San Jose. And it reminded me of something incredible, and that's the power of working with young activists. And so rather than me talking the whole time, what I want to do is I want to introduce a series of these amazing young activists who are really doing yeoman's work. They're really reminding us of who we are as a society, of who we need to be as a society, and pushing us to stand up for the society that we really believe in. So I want to first just introduce my friend and former student and comrade in this work, Lila McCabe.
So I am Loni McCabe. I took a social action class at San Jose State a couple years ago, and we started the minimum wage campaign there. It was me and 3 other students. We were very much inspired by FDR's Second Bill of Rights, and we were all a little bit older. We were in our mid to late 20s, and we were all driving a long distance to get to school and working full-time jobs and paying for school. And we realized that at $8 an hour, that was at the time it was $4 for a tank of gas. At $8 an hour, that's 50% of your hourly rate. That would take a week of work to put gas in your car. And at that point, we said, we need to do something about this. And so we went forward, did a lot of research, we built a coalition, and then we were able to, with the help of Nicky and students from De Anza and Labor Council down there, working partnerships and Sacred Heart and all these other organizations, were able to pass minimum wage, which was the highest jump in the history of the nation, 25% from $8 to $10 an hour. And our hope was that it would then snowball and other cities would also do that. So now we are hopefully doing it here in Berkeley, Oakland, Richmond, Sunnyvale is also doing it. And the whole ride has been probably the best thing I've done. It's been amazing. And Angus Peter, he got involved at De Anza when I went and did some outreach out there, and he is continuing the work here as well. So I'd like to introduce Angus.
Hi everyone, I just want to say first off, what an honor it is to be here and to really see the continuity of this kind of work between generations. It's very, very inspiring to put it in this kind of context of students carrying the torch of social justice into the next generation. I also want to thank Lila and Nicky personally for being inspirations to me and helping me develop myself into the point where I can get involved and do this kind of work. I'd also like to honor Mayor Bates for appointing me to the Labor Commission in Berkeley and helping push the minimum wage to the front of the political agenda there. It's an extremely, extremely important issue. And I have to say that it's one that, at least for the people of my generation, that we intuitively get. We're seeing income inequality levels unseen at any other time in our nation's history, exceeding even the time that FDR was presiding over in the Great Depression. I'd also like to take this opportunity to honor two other student activists who couldn't be here today because they're working. They're working on top of being full-time students, which all of us are up here. It is not an easy task, but I think to do that, to work, to be a student, and to be a social justice activist is an incredibly inspiring feat that deserves recognition. Those two students that I'm thinking of in particular, Danny McCarty and Lauren Rodriguez, are very good friends of mine, and amazing people who are just one of hundreds that I've met doing this kind of work. And I have to say that's what makes this kind of work so enjoyable and what makes me so passionate about. To see the concrete benefit that the change that we can make in people's everyday lives by guaranteeing them a fair compensation for their work. I have to ask the question, though, is their time being well spent? They're doing what they have to do, being at their job and earning that money to make their rent and buy groceries. But as a society, we should question whether their time is being well spent. People like them are some of the most brilliant and passionate people in our generation, and they're working minimum wage jobs. They're shackled by poverty and by debt. This is not a productive use of our social resources, and changing the minimum wage is an effective way to change that. It gives them more time to participate in our democratic society, without which our democratic society cannot function. So I said this is something that we intuitively get as students, and as students we have a particular perspective on it. We've been told our whole lives that we need to get educations so that we can get better jobs. But right now, to most of us, the reality of it is that we need better jobs to afford that education. I'd like to thank you all again for giving me the opportunity to address you all today, for having us here. And I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine, fellow Cal student and fellow Labor Commissioner, Irene Yu.
Hi, my name is Irene. I want to speak a little bit about being a student activist and student organizer. And for us, for Raleigh, Michael, and Cecilia, and Angus, that we all together work as student organizers, it's a very empowering and very transformative way to be a part of how we grow and how to make a change. And I grew up in China, and there's a very limited way to make a change. And I really want to thank Wellstone Campus Camp Wellstone for training grassroots organizer, and Nicky and the council member Darryl appointing me to work on this issue and push through the process and to work on the issue that we want to change. It's very empowering, and it's a skill and very instrumental for our future to be the change that we want to see. And I really want to thank Nicky again for organizing us, teaching us, and coming along the way to show us how we can be that. Thank you.
You know, I think of the students in this generation as being like a little kid in the emperor's new clothes. You know, for many of us, we have been at this struggle for decades. And as much as we fight, sometimes we get used to it. Sometimes we get used to poverty. Sometimes we get used to the outrages of an outrageous society. And it's with these young eyes, it's in these fresh eyes, that I renew my sense of indignation and outrage and impatience over the slow pace of change. It's with these young eyes that I feel inspired and moved to push faster and farther. Oftentimes the opponents of the minimum wage increases have said, oh, this is too fast, this is too far, this is too much. And I can only think, well, from whose perspective is it too fast and too far and too much? Not certainly from the perspective of people who are struggling to put gas in their car and get to work and put food on their tables. Not certainly people who are trying to make their way through school while working full-time and being full-time students. That just doesn't make any sense at all. So we have a minimum wage special meeting of the Berkeley City Council this coming Thursday, and I encourage you to come and encourage our amazing Berkeley City Council to do the thing that we elected that City Council to do, to represent this area and the values of this community, to move faster and farther than the rest of the country, to take leadership in the work that is so vital to raising everybody up so that we all can do better when we all do better. We put together an amazing coalition. This coalition includes the Berkeley Federation of Teachers, SEIU 1021, the Sierra Club, the Democratic Party Central Committee, the Labor Council, the Building Trades, the Peralta Retirees, the National Women's Political Caucus, the Cal Berkeley ASUC, the Berkeley City College Associated Students, the Cal Dems, the California Nurses Association, VOCA, the Tax the Rich Group, the Engineers and Scientists of UC Berkeley, and, of course, the Wellstone Democratic Club. How long will we wait? How long will we wait? I don't think we need to wait at all. In 3 short years, we've moved this agenda from nothing to everything. Let's just do this on Thursday. Can we? Will you show up? Will you show up? Will you show up? Will you stand up and show up on Thursday to help the City Council be the City Council that it wants to be? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicky. I also want to acknowledge that Mayor Jean Kwan of Oakland